Wizards have been going missing, taken underground by murderous brigands for some unknown purpose. Contacted by a master mage, the party must help rescue a missing apprentice. Get your torches and lantern oil ready as we head into the night below. Hi everyone, I'm Gary, and today we're going to talk about something really interesting. We're going to talk about The Night Below, a mega campaign for second edition AD&D. Now, this was originally published as 3 volumes in a box, and I have the print-on-demand version available on drive-thru, which is good for a number of reasons, and there's a couple of issues with it, which I'll talk about later. But it's 3 linked scenarios that are built together into one enormous Underdark-themed campaign, and it is wonderful. The author is Carl Sargent, and each of those adventure books is 64 pages long, and it was first published in 1995. So, a couple of bona fides before we get started talking about The Night Below. An Underdark campaign. I've run it twice. I've run it from start to finish twice, and both times were for 5th edition. And for one party, it was the only adventure that party played, and it took them from 1st to 13th level. And then the other time I ran it for characters. I ran it for 5e again, and I ran it for characters who were already 5th level when they started it, and they did 5th to about 15th level. And it wasn't obviously their first adventure. I'm currently running it a 3rd time for my own system, the old school adjacent system, Journeyman Expert Master. I'll put a link to the free version of that in the scroll box at the bottom. And I thought, having finished the first part of it again, it would be an apt time to stop and talk about why I think that this is an absolutely fantastic campaign that you should be reading and running, because it is just wonderful. It has a reputation for being brilliant, and it is. So, I'm going to do the through line. Now, normally when I do the through line for these these videos, I just talk about what happens from the beginning to the end. I'm going to do the through line twice this time, which is a little bit differently. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the through line for the whole campaign, from book 1 to the end of book 3. And then I'm just going to stop and talk about the first book through line, the first book, which is called The Evils of Haranshire. So the overview of the module. Well, this is it in brief. Spellcasters, both arcane and divine, are being abducted en masse from the Haranshire, from the surface world, and they're being taken below into the Underdark. Nobody knows exactly why, and they're basically being abducted by brigands. Now, deep in the Underdark, a city of Aboleth are building a vast superstructure called the Tower of Domination. And what this is that it will, once it is completed, the tower, it will amplify and extend the Aboleth's psionic abilities to dominate others. So they're hoping that once this is finished, they'll be able to it's a stealth invasion. They'll be able to invade the surface world, and they'll have lots of people already up there that are already under their control. For the tower to function, though, it requires the sacrifice of vast numbers of spellcasters of each race that the Aboleth wish to dominate. That's why they're capturing everyone they can get their hands on. So basically, the party must eventually go down into the Underdark to the Tower of Domination and destroy the Aboleth and stop this kind of stealth invasion. That's the through line for the overall module. Now let's talk about the through line for the first part, The Evils of Haranshire. It's a 64-page booklet, and it's a really good example of a sandbox that has been pre-written for you. So the party are contacted by the wizard Torster, whose apprentice Jeleneth has gone missing. Torster, I was going to save this for things that you should change, but I'm just going to say it now. Change his name, change Torster's name. If you don't, everyone in your group's going to be referring to him as the wizard Torster for the entire campaign. Just change his name to something else. Unbeknownst to the party, Jeleneth, Torster's apprentice, has been captured by bandits and taken below the Garlstone mines, where she's going to be transported to the Underdark. Having met Torster and been asked to look into where Jeleneth has gone, the module quickly broadens, making book 1, and actually all of the parts of this, a yam-shaped adventure. I've talked about yam-shaped adventures here, and you should check that video out so you know what I'm talking about. And this sandbox provides an enormous amount of side questing. We've got a druid circle, which includes a pair of rangers. There is a kind of adolescent angsty werebear, this that they can interact with, this werebear that's just worked out that they're a lycanthrope, and the druid is doing their best to kind of manage this. There's a kind of reservoir with a really angry water elemental in it, and some thieving goblins that have taken this ring of water creation. There's a group of transient Aarakocra who need a home, who the party can get involved with and try and help find, give them a place where they can set up a new settlement. There's a magical standing stone that they can visit, and that gives them various magical benefits. There's also rumours, to quote Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, of a gigantic hound that lurks on the moors. There is also a swamp with an old green dragon in it. There's two fully fleshed out villages, Millbourne and Thurmaster, and there is also two large dungeons, the Galstone Mines and Broken Spire Keep. There is loads of stuff going on in this module, and to some extent, the Game Master is going to have to decide what they want to present to the players, what they're comfortable presenting to the players, so that they can engage with it, and which things they want to cut, and which things they might even want to change. Now, eventually, the party will decide to investigate either the mines, one of those two big dungeons, either the Garstone Mines or Broken Spire Keep, beneath which there's a series of tunnels connecting. They're both connected via a tunnel, and that tunnel also connects to a doorway into the Underdark. Both of those dungeons are being used as a kind of a holding station for bandits who have captured spellcasters and have somewhere to put them. Now, what do I like? There's quite a lot. There's quite a lot that I think you need to consider when running this. There's nothing that's really bad, but there's quite a few things that you need to consider. But there's loads to like. First of all, the Night Below is for any setting, which includes this opening segment, and that is something that you don't get very much in modules, especially modules written for D&D. They're usually written for a specific setting in mind, whether that's Realms or Dragonlance or whatever, or Eberron. They're usually for a specific setting, but this is consciously. It tells you in its opening it's for any setting. And I adjusted the map of my own kind of setting to fit some of these things in, so then I could run it as close to the module as possible. There's loads of stuff in this module, and I appreciate that. You get a big bang for your buck, right, out of this module, and you don't need to use it all, and you shouldn't use it all. You should really think about what is going to be the most interesting for your players. So like I said, there's rumors of a gigantic hound. There's this big it's like a black dog myth, like a Baghest on the moors, and one of my parties, my most recent party, going through this, I just didn't even really mention that to them because there was so much stuff going on anyway. There's the dragon in the swamp that two of my parties went, and actually neither of the parties went for that. There's so much stuff going on. That the goblins that have stolen the Ring of Water creation and they are accidentally creating a new marsh, all of my parties absolutely adore that. The thing about this is that if there's anything in this module that you don't like, you can either not mention it, but you can also drop other things in really easily. It's a really nice sandbox. So if you're running something like, if you want to run something like Winter's Daughter, I reviewed that here, or I don't know, the House on Iron or the Croaking Fane or any of those DCC modules, you could easily drop them into the beginning segment of this adventure and it wouldn't affect anything at all. The last thing that I really like is that reaching a climax in this module is really non-linear. The characters can either go through the mines or the keep, the Broken Spire Keep, or both. What my most recent party actually ended up doing both because they worked out that these two things are connected and they want to make sure that they wanted to explore both. So how they reach that ending, which does come to a kind of bottleneck, they've got to find the doorway into the Underdark. How they reach that is very, very open. So what have I changed, and what concerns my Game Master have? There's loads of NPCs. There's dozens of NPCs in the Evils of Haranshire, and this is a problem. Jeleneth, who is Torster's apprentice, they can meet Torster, who puts them on the right track. They can also meet her boyfriend. They can meet her dad. They can meet a druid who has met her, and all of these characters don't really add anything to the player's understanding of Jeleneth and the fact that she's gone missing. And actually, I just cut most of them out. I don't really introduce her father. I don't introduce her boyfriend. I just say that she's Torster's apprentice and that she's from kind of like out of town. She's not originally from where Torster lives in Thurmaster. Because otherwise, there's just so much going on. Also, some of the NPCs, like the druid, they are very typical of TSR at this time, where they're just expressive of quite generic fantasy. There's not really that much going on with them that's quite interesting. So if I were you, I would be choosing 4 or 5 NPCs, maybe even fewer, maybe 3 or 4 NPCs that you think are key to this module, and I would be going hard on them and really making them interesting, giving them lots of motivations, giving them a reason for the players to keep wanting to interact with them. The other thing is that the game starts, the adventure starts after Jeleneth has been abducted. They learn that when they get into town. And what is supposed to be the hook that makes the characters aware that this is going on is that as they're traveling to Torster, brigands attack them and try and round up any spellcasters. That is a good hook, but really, in my opinion, the players need to meet Jelleneth. And then she goes missing a few days later. Otherwise, what happens is by the time you get to the third part of this module, when they can actually find Jelleneth, which will be many months of play away, they're like, Jella who? Like, what? Who's this? Oh yeah, we were down here trying to find someone. That's what happened when I ran it before. And I didn't, I followed the book more closely. So I've introduced Jelleneth, the characters met her, were endeared to her. She kind of helped them out a little bit, and then she went missing. So at least they know who she is, and they're going to, I can then softly remind them continuously throughout. There's the other thing to be aware of is that there's loads of combat, especially in the dungeons. There's rooms that are just, their description is just basically, yeah, it's an empty room full of like 4 bandits. And there's 2 bandit-themed dungeons, the Galstone Mines and the Unbroken Spire Keep. I usually change the mines to be hobgoblins or orcs just to add a little bit of variety there, because otherwise it can just feel a little bit like going room to room. It's not bad at all, but it's just indicative of second edition writing. And Cal Sargent does a really great job of hanging all of these disparate parts together, and actually he's manages to convey a lot of content in what is not that many pages. But just be aware that it's loads of combat. If they go straight to the keep and you let them do that, they are most characters, if they're first level or second level, they're going to be too weak and they're just going to get slaughtered. And it's not going to be any fun, or it's going to be where they kind of clear a room. It takes them half an hour to do the combat, and then they go to the next room. It's exactly the same, and then they go into the next room and it's exactly the same. So we need to adjust that slightly. The other thing that I would change is that there's very little discoverable information about what is actually going on. The players understand that obviously the spellcasters are being nabbed. The priest in one of the towns, there's an attempt to snatch him, but there's no way of working out that this is some grand plot underground with the Aboleth. What I would do is I would bulk this out with prophecy and dreams, where they have the kind of like the Aboleth are trying to extend their psionic abilities northward and upwards onto the surface, and some characters become aware in their dreams that they're being compelled to do things, or have characters behave in a way that is vaguely hypnotized. There's a couple of characters that are wearing these kind of like dominatory necklaces that when you cut them they bleed grey. Emphasize that enormously, just so then it feels like there is something larger, because otherwise it feels like every module of this can be every kind of segment of these three booklets can be a little bit self-contained. But they're the things that I would change. It is fantastic. I will do the second and third part as my party move through this. I do think it is a good module that you should read. There's just so much stuff going on, especially the first few pages in the Gazetteer of the Haranshire. You should read it just to get a sense of what it is. It is wonderful. As ever, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll put a link to the free version of my Game Journeyman Expert Master below. I'll also put a link to the print-on-demand version of The Night Below, so you can check it out on drive-through. As ever, like and subscribe. Many thanks. This is Gary. Thank you.